everyone, my name's Yaasmeen. I'm 33 years of age now. So my journey started really back in 2019. Me and my husband were ready to have a baby. She was due on August 17th. We were gearing up for that. Kind of had no other issues health-wise other than kind of just um, waiting to see what happened with the baby and whether she was okay. Needs to so we gave birth on the 17th of August. Initially, things were quite smooth, and it was kind of about a week into having my daughter, where I started to feel a little bit of pain. I thought it would go away. Being a new mum, I thought it was just one of those things that happens. And then the pain slowly got worse, and the pain was in my spine. So gradually, I'd feel like I couldn't do the normal activities, just walking around, holding the baby, carrying her, feeding her. I just get a lot of pain in my lower spine. And it got to the point where I lived on a second floor flat. One of the days, probably about 4 weeks in, I walked to the top of the stairs after an appointment to check the baby was okay. And I just felt like my whole weight was going to collapse. So I ended up trying to run into the flat and try and get the baby to a safe place. And I just collapsed. And thankfully, the baby landed on the bed. It was right next to me, so I was placed next to the bed. But I was on the floor for quite a while, and I had my phone in the hallway somewhere, so I couldn't ask for help from anybody. So I had to wait for about 45 minutes to kind of recharge almost. So that was quite distressing. So I got in contact with me, and they said it was normal, that I should do some back exercises. So I started with those, and they just seemed to aggravate my back even more. And then the day before my brother's wedding, I ended up going to hospital in the night, and it was a local hospital, and I couldn't sit, I couldn't physically place any weight on my spine. So they had a look at my back just by visual, really, nothing else. And they, again, because I'd had a baby, they kind of dismissed it and thought, nope, she's fine. And I just kind of got sent on my way with a bit of paracetamol. Then the next day, that was I think my brother's wedding was on that same day, and it was an evening, and it just got worse. It just felt like I couldn't carry any of my body weight, and I just ended up collapsing at the end of that wedding. Thankfully, I managed to try and stay standing, but I couldn't go to the toilet. I couldn't walk. I had to lie in the bed. It was just agony lying down. I thought I was dying. I didn't ever feel pain like that before. I just didn't know what was wrong. So, in the end, my mum called the ambulance. They came to see me, and they tried me walking. I just couldn't get up, so they gave me a lot of morphine because they deemed that I needed to go to hospital. Then went to hospital. The treatment I got was interesting. I was being told to stand up and do all kinds of things that my body just wasn't wanting to do, and I was trying to stand up with my mum, and they said, "Oh, she's fine," and mum refused to kind of accept that. And so really, I waited for hours and hours until the morning where they decided to go to a ward because I couldn't hold my own weight. Then I got admitted to a ward over half term it was. In 2019. So my husband at that point was with the baby full time. I had been breastfeeding and obviously had to stop. Baby had to change to formula. So my life had kind of changed in August, and then it was changing again. So it was quite an interesting time. I don't think mentally I was very strong. I really needed my family, and they were a massive wealth of support. So the consultant that saw me at the time when I was in a ward, very dismissive, and again just put it down to pregnancy. Mum demanded a scan because she said it wasn't normal, and I didn't feel normal. So I then had an MRI scan, and it was only then that the people who were looking after me started kind of being a bit more gentler with my back when they were kind of moving me around. Otherwise, it would quite hand me quite in a discomforting way. So then I got wheeled back to the ward, and then they decided I needed a DEXA scan. So I said that I would really need a lot of more medication, a lot more support to be able to stand because I couldn't bear the weight. So they gave me support, wheeled me up in the bed, and I had to stand for as little as time as possible. So that was good. I just felt this crushing pain. I didn't know what was going on. And then the consultants then realised that there was an issue with the spine, said I had 5 spinal fractures. And they said if I had one more, I would have not been able to walk again. So that was quite traumatic, kind of just hearing that, receiving that news. I received it by myself. And I was just in tears to my family. But again, they were a massive wealth of support. So the kind of next day, it was really about, well, what were they going to do to help me? They decided I needed a back brace, which was, I've still got it. It's almost like a comfort blanket now, just in case what happened. And sorry, Dr. Mahmood, did you want to say something? So at that point, I got offered bisphosphonates, and there was a medicine called alendronic acid, and I didn't know about it. But from the little research that I then did with my mum on the phone, was it had kind of side effects that were on potential cancer and might not be able to have a baby, and it was for post-pregnant, post-menopausal women. Sorry, and again, I more kids. That was my dream. So again, I was in shock. But it was one of those things that we need to just take a step at a time. So both my mum agreed that I wouldn't take their medication because at the time I didn't know what was going to be putting into my body based on the very little research we'd done and the conversation I had with the consultant. And they were quite insistent. They gave it to me in my hand, and I just looked at it and thought, I just can't do that to myself right now. I don't know enough about it. So then they just agreed that I would just go or get discharged, sorry, with kind of Oromorph. I was on pregabalin, so it's a nerve medication, MST. There was quite pain relief drugs that I was dispatched with. And it took about a day to get discharged, so I had to stay overnight. The pharmacy took forever to kind of just get the medication ready. I was just wanting to get home so much. But while I was in hospital, I was there for a week in total. My family had basically kind of consulted with me and said that I wouldn't be able to sleep in my flat anymore on the second floor, given the circumstances. So my mum was setting up shop at home in her house, lower ground floor, and getting ready for me, my husband, and my baby. And so I then got discharged from the hospital with the medication, and that was where we were going to live. So thankfully we were in a kind of a rental agreement, which kind of was moved in, that was month by month, so we could put in the appropriate notice. But yeah, it was just really not something that we'd expected. But my husband and baby were doing well, which is definitely a relief. But yeah, I had a lot of emotions at that time. Yeah, so absolutely, it was amazing the way my family just rallied round and just really supported me, my husband, and the baby. And she's called Alia, so if I do say her or the baby, that's what I'm talking about. So she has a name, and that's Alia. So she was a breath of fresh air. She was just seeing that she was here, and after all the months, and seeing that she was here after all that we'd gone through up to that point was amazing. There were times when I got into my little depressive state, and I don't mean that in a negative fashion. It's just I really got myself in a bad place mentally, and then I would kind of see Ali, and it would really bring me my confidence out a bit, and I would see the light at the end of the tunnel a bit more. Because I couldn't walk, as I mentioned. I had a Zimmer frame, and so my mum put a basket on it just so I could go around and collect my little snacks. It just kind of made a bit of light of what challenging daily routine. I couldn't pick up my daughter. Other people are doing everything for me, changing her nappies, getting her food, getting her milk sorted. Because obviously I couldn't breastfeed, so all the things I expected to do as a new mum, I couldn't do it. So I felt really guilty. I felt really negative and bad about the fact I couldn't do it. I didn't process what was happening. But coming out the end of the tunnel now, it was for a reason. I've learned so much from that time. I've met some incredible people, and including Dr. Mahmood. And I don't think I could be where I was, and without my faith and without Dr. Mahmood's support and my family's support. I think it just Yeah, I think I'm just going to say that you will go through ups and downs. There are going to be times where you just really don't want to do those little exercises where you have to be like a crab, or you do those hoop movements with your hips. It's just one of those things that sometimes you just have to try and suck it up and just try and crack on as best you can. And you won't always do it perfectly, so don't hold yourself too much to scrutiny on that. But if you got kids around, or you got your husband around, bring them in, join them in, get them to join in. Sorry, as it really is one of those things where you've got to bring everyone in, because you're all on this journey. They're all experiencing this journey with you, just in a slightly different way to yourself, and it doesn't take away from anything. So definitely invest that time in yourself in thinking, am I feeling okay? Is this how I normally am? Is this what I've read about post pregnancy symptoms or not? It's just doing that internal check. And sometimes you need people around you as well, just to ask if you're feeling okay, which they will do, especially after having a baby. But yeah, just don't forget about yourself. Yeah. I did. Sorry, go on. I was going to say. Oh, sorry, it keeps cutting off. Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say that I mean, for my husband, he was so resilient in just being able to look after a baby, because each man take on the role differently as a parent. There was comments like, is he going to after having this, and it was just, I didn't mention it, but it's just, you just think back to that time and just think there was a lot going on. My dad had got dementia, and he was being put in a care home when Ali was born. So it's just, there was so much going on. So yeah, full credit to my mum. She, like, thank you, Dr. Mahmood. So I think the first thing I'd probably do is going to bed on time and waking up early. There is a lot of benefit in waking up early, just that bit before dawn, and just thinking about your day, what you've got ahead, and just taking a bit of that time out, whether you pray or just have other activities that you do. Just taking that time to really digest where you are in that moment in time and what you've got coming up. Um, the next thing I'd say is, I think, just be mindful of what you're eating and drinking and the exercise. Yeah, every day it's a struggle to always choose between that cake or maybe an apple. But it's worth, if you want that longevity, if you want the chance to kind of have that energy and be around your kids for a bit longer. Take those opportunities now. 'Cause I think now is the time to do that while we're young and make changes. I think but just being mindful, nothing perfect, but just take that moment to think: is that what I should be eating or drinking? Should I do that exercise or not? That might just take 2 minutes out of my day, and maybe make it a little bit of fun as well at the same time. Um, I think we all deal with those kind of demons day to day. It depends on what's going on that day, the agenda for that time. But I think, being a Muslim, we have certain times of day where we pray, and that really does bring my mind back to what we're here for, and just making that time to think about and reflect and be appreciative, as you've said. And there are 5 points in a day for those prayers, and those 5 points are those most blessed times to do those sorts of things. So I'd say, if you are a spiritual person, then for sure reconnect with your faith as much as possible, because never take it a second for granted. So he was diagnosed with frontal temporal lobe dementia in 2015, and then he was sectioned, then in care homes. So at the moment he's in, I think, his fifth care home, but he's doing okay. But he's lost a lot of his speech now, so he is mobile. He's 63 now, of 8 years of age. But he's Yeah, he's early onset dementia. But yeah, he's doing okay day to day. My mum sees him about 4 times a week, and we try and see him as much as we can. But that's where again we really had to try and think about the purpose and what would Dad say. And when he was getting more and more into the dementia mindset, where he was kind of forgetting who we are, etc. He kept saying, "I want to go to Jannah." Whenever we said, "Should we go to the park?" "No, I want to go to Jannah." So he inspires me every day because I know he can't say much to me, but his eyes speak a lot, and just knowing that the angels are with him, and the person that he was, he's just remembering. He's that constant reminder of why we're here, and I can't say I always do the right things, and I'm nowhere perfect, but he's that kind of reminder for us quite a lot, really. But